Hello, everybody. Hello, my friends and supporters and new subscribers to my channel, Cosmic Agency. Today, I'm going to have a very different presentation, and it's going to be the one that I did in France. Yes, a few weeks ago, I was in France, in Limoges, for the Extraterrestrial symposium there, and I gave an hour presentation, follow with a message at the end from someone. I'm going to explain this now. And it was a presentation that I came up with a few months ago, thinking how to make this different and actually how to approach extraterrestrials, not only the people on Earth with the messages from the extraterrestrials, but actually do it the reverse as well and give the extraterrestrial people some messages from me. Simply based on the interactions that we have had, direct written interaction for the last seven years. Last year was a non-communication period until now. And I think it's important because they have things to learn and to adjust to as well. We are so used to just receiving these wisdoms and information from them. And we are forgetting that it's not that they are all knowing and just perfect and idyllic with nothing to learn from us, but that we have things to say and to teach them as well, or teach them, well, give some advice and pointers with certain topics. So I gathered these points based on our interactions. And this is, to bridge the gap, because if we want the full disclosure, I believe we all do, the full transparency, even though it's doubtful it's going to go that way. But let's see that, it's somewhere on the horizon. Let's be positive here. And, well, there are these gaps that I think we need to bridge. And it's not just, like I said, us learning things, poor humans having to adapt and understand the ET life. But there are actually things that they need to learn as well. So this is to bridge that gap that has been here on Earth for centuries and growing, and millennia even, of course. So, if we want, like I said, this full disclosure, we have to understand the truth. And that truth has to come with the good and the bad. And we have to accept them with good and bad. And they also us with that good and bad, or at least try. We must normalize the subject as much as we can. And if we continue to be in these idyllic and perfect bubbles of what the ET people are like, or the extraterrestrial beings, then we're never going to normalize this subject at all. And the CIA and the New Age, as we know, have done a lot of damage in this matter. Presenting the ET beings in a very new agey, in a very, fluffy way throughout the years. And the truth is that they have their strengths and also they have their weaknesses, just as we do. And they have all different characters, but we're going to get to that. So I believe the Earth is not going to advance with just half truths. In order to normalize the subject, we need to get the good and the bad, the positive and the regressive, everything, just full transparency. Accept them with good qualities and with the flaws, just like we have them. So this is messages to the people and messages to the ET people, okay? It's going to be both. It's not going to be just messages to the ETs. It's going to be messages to the people as well. I am going to skip through the introduction part, which I gave at the symposium, because that was basically me explaining the Taygetans and this contact and who they are. So here in this channel, even though I know there are a lot of a lot of new subscribers probably, so perhaps I should have a brief intro. Okay, I'm going to do just a few sentences introduction. Since 2017 until 2024 December, yes, we have been in a direct communication with a group of Taygetan Pleiadians who were at the time I hope still stationed in the orbit of the Earth, just as many other races. This was a written live chat contact. We also heard them in audio a few times through filters, some of them. And then we had a physical encounter as well with one of them. The group of Taygetan Pleiadians is representing here Taygeta, which is a star system in the Pleiades, one of the races, because there are many, many, many races there. They are Taygetan Pleiadians. And, we have been chatting with them in the last 8 years, about so many different topics. And all this is explained and showcased here in this channel, Cosmic Agency, also on our website, zvaru.org, where you can actually read all these different transcripts. And this is knowledge on all possible subjects that you can imagine. And what's most important, it's word for word communication. It's not channeled. It's exactly as it was said. So we are now focused on lights and sightings and UFOs and craft. But here in the last 7-8 years, we actually had a direct communication from them already. They are speaking. They were speaking. They are people, and they have passed so much information. Our contact was never about them really passing the information, or at least not in the beginning. It was friendship. We were with them just as friends, not only us, by the way. And then, it transformed into this process of passing some of the information for the people as well. A lot of information has been passed. So in the presentation in France, I gave this brief introduction. I also explained a little bit about this gap that has been created here between our worlds, because in the past, in the ancient times, the ETs and the ET people were part of the society here. They were walking on Earth. They were walking among us physically in their bodies. And, they contributed a lot to our culture and to the, structures, and they built a lot. The pyramids are the result of these federation constructions around the world, etc. But I'm not going to go into this now here. I want to focus on these messages to the ETs and to the people, okay? Because for the new people, in the last 7-8 years, our communication was very close and our friendship was very close. We could actually feel and see their characters, their personalities, their emotions. We had a lot of very intimate interactions, and there were stories there. So that's why I feel like I have something to add, perhaps. So let's move on to the first message. Some of those messages, again, the Cosmic Agency followers, you will understand this already, okay? But you have to understand, I was speaking to the people in France, where the majority of people did not know me. So we always say, are the humans ready for the interaction with the ETs? We are not ready, or we are ready, or the ETs think that we are ready, or we are not ready. My question is, are they ready? Are you guys ready? The ET people to meet us more openly, more officially. Are you prepared? So let's get through this. Message to the people. Okay, this is how it's going to be. Message to the people, message to the ETs. Message to the people. They are people. Message to the people on Earth, they are people. They are not of Earth, but they are physical people. You know this, Cosmic Agency followers, just stay with me. They are biological, physical people. There is more humanity out there. They are not orbs. They are not angels. That's a separate story there. And you have to understand that people did not evolve on Earth, because we have this understanding either, based on Darwinism, that life evolved. Some somehow according to the Darwinist principles. Or if there are some beings, well, there could be like light beings, and right away we imagine there are some strange enigmatic light beings. So no, there is actually more physical, biological, and not etheric humanity out there. And this is the first and the most important thing to understand, to normalize the subject and to welcome them and to cooperate and work with them shoulder by shoulder. Yes, I'm not sure that expression exists. By the way, I forgot, before I continue with the messages, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to read a special message that was passed to me from a special friend, let's call it this way, that a special friend who lives among us, okay? That person wants to remain anonymous for now, so let's just focus on the message itself. It's the message to you. I read that message. It's going to be about 15 minutes or so, and depends how I read. I read that message there in France, in front of 900 people there in the audience, so it was quite interesting. So wait. You're going to hear that message at the end. Okay, so there is more humanity out there, and this is the first step to normalize the subject, okay? And another thing to understand, to normalize the subject, is that life outside Earth is not perfect, especially around the affairs having to do with Earth and Earth politics. There is a lot of contamination, there's a lot of politics, there are interests, there are agendas. Maybe not so much on their planets, but here, especially around the planet Earth, there's a lot going on, and not everything is perfect, not everything is ideal. The 5D, as many people call it, we have a slightly different understanding of this, but okay, it's not some kind of idyllic world that is just going to present itself and erase all our problems. Yes, some of these problems might be, will be, could be, could be addressed, as Kila used to say. That's one of the Taygetans. He used to say could be addressed. However, it's not going to raise absolutely all your life issues. Okay, especially if you have something internal going on. This is something they have to struggle with as well. They have nostalgias, they have dilemmas, they have, questions, larger questions about life. So we have to understand that as well. And message to the people as well. Here we are looking at them as something otherworldly, something strange and otherworldly. But you also have to understand that they might be looking at us this way as well. They are very curious, some of them more than others. Taygetans are very curious, explorative race. So they will be coming and curious about us as well. And we would be kind of otherworldly to them as well. Not so much maybe physically. Many of them will look like us, but our mentality, most of us here are different to them. So they are not just the only ones that are otherworldly. We are also otherworldly to them. Any other creature out there will be otherworldly. Okay, now the first message that I have to the ET people, I would say, have a little bit more patience with the people on Earth, even though I understand why they are so frustrated, with the people on Earth falling for different agendas. They, I noticed from our interactions up there, are sometimes very frustrated and perplexed as to why people do not connect the dots as easily as they can connect the dots. And that is because they are not immersed in this matrix soup from birth, indoctrinated from birth, not being given any choice but to accept what is presented to them by their parents and teachers, etc. So here, it is very difficult sometimes to see through the agendas, through the lies, through the deceptions, and connect the dots. We have been so brainwashed here. It's easier not to see the deceptions if you have never been brainwashed really in the first place. So I would say have a little bit more patience. This I noticed especially during the time of COVID, when we were very active and passing a lot of information about that. And I noticed Aneka, who was one of our friends at the time, she was just flabbergasted. Why aren't the people smarter? Why aren't they seeing through this deception? What's wrong with the people? And it's very difficult. It's very difficult to be here and to have this mishmash, this mesh of truths and half-truths and deceptions and lies all thrown at you from all different sides, and you just don't know sometimes. You just don't know. And I feel like some of them think that if extraterrestrial people think that if they come here to Earth to observe or to maybe live as step downs, that may be enough for them to understand the human condition. Okay, I would say it's not enough. It's not enough to come here with the full memory and with the full understanding of life out there, with the full, complete certainty of what's going on and what's going on out there, and then think that you understand the human predicament. It's not the same. It's not the same as coming in here as a human incarnate and seeing all this through the human eye. So of course it's going to give you a better understanding than if you were just back in Taygetan somewhere there listening to this at the academy. It's much better coming here and living here. Yes, stepping down. Step downs, by the way, are those who are physical extraterrestrial people coming down from ships and just walking among us, living here sometimes as us, because many of them look like us. So yes, of course, that's better. That gives you an insight, but it's not the same. It's not the same. It would be like, for example, you going to live in some kind of a tribe or a small town in Africa and having all the knowledge of other stuff, and you're trying to kind of peek through the eyes of those tribesmen. And yeah, of course, you're going to get a vision of how they are living, but you're never going to really feel what it's like to be growing up in that village, to be dealing with all the daily struggles. You will not get that. So what's the point of that? Actually, the point is listen to us, listen to people who have been anchored here as humans, living as humans, living as starseeds, no starseeds, memories, less memory, I don't know, but living this experience from the inside, because only then you can truly understand the human experience. Okay, message to the people, and you already know this, ET people are not perfect. None of them are really perfect, even though, of course, many times they try and they want to be seen as ethical and as correct as possible. It goes for me as well. I also try to be as correct in my actions as possible. Well, but not always is that the case, and some of them also have a bit more suspicious intentions or mentality. Remember, they are people, so there will be all kinds of characters. Many of them will be difficult even to deal with. We had been in communication with the ones that were very easy actually to get along with. We always had a very harmonious interaction. There were no issues, very, very, very few. And but we know that there are others out there who are not as easy to get along with, or might have more difficult characters or intentions even. So remember, do not expect them to conform to many misconceptions and ideas that we have of them. Because if that misconception is that not met, if that idea is not met and not delivered, you might think, oh, they are not ETs then. Or just because they are not conforming to your expectations, it doesn't make them any less real. And that's very, very, very important. It's crucial because everyone sees them here as stellar families. I just want to unite with my stellar family. And then what if your stellar family comes and gets angry, or results that it's a difficult person to deal with, or maybe not as patient and not as tolerant as you would imagine? Or would you think then, oh, it's not your stellar family? No, it still will be. It's just that they will be themselves, okay, not acting according to how you expect them to be. Okay, so don't think, again, people on Earth, that they are just perfect. Okay, again, this is super important because we have all these expectations, and that goes to the beginning of my presentation. Actually, what I said is that there are these bubbles that we have. We have our own bubble here on Earth. That is the idea of how the ET people are. They also have some of the bubbles, and we are projecting those expectations and those ideas and through the bubble that we are in. And then, like I said, if that person from another bubble comes in and results as in not displaying those characteristics that we thought that person from another bubble would have, well, then that person cannot be from that world. Then no, you don't be projecting your desires of the extraterrestrial people to be a certain way. Otherwise, they're fake. Okay? So that's very important because, again, the New Age, the CIA did a lot of damage and harm in this regard on purpose. And that is very stressful to them, I would say, to the ET people, to have to conform to that. Knowing that we have these idyllic expectations of them. And then how do we then deal with the people? We're going to disappoint them. And they don't want to disappoint. And that may lead to strategies and maybe behavior on their part that could be not 100% authentic, because they might be acting out of the expectations that you have towards them. And that then is counterproductive to the whole ET disclosure. Because like I said in the beginning, it cannot be half truths. Done with that. We have to have a full transparency, good with bad. So, ET people, message to the ET people, stop being afraid to show your imperfections and your flaws. You do not have to be perfect. Just because some of us have this ideal of you as being just these perfect, idyllic, angelic, etheric beings, it doesn't mean that you have to act through that. Okay? Do not conform to that. Just be yourself. That's on the people to sort out. That's not your problem. Okay? You just be yourself. People have to catch up. You stop playing, or don't continue to be playing that God role anymore. Just because here we have that on a pedestal, that we have you on a pedestal. So I would say there is still some of that God complex remaining, I think, in some of the extraterrestrial people, as, maybe a little bit distant, a little enigmatic. There's the air of superiority that they feel they should retain, or they feel that is being projected on them, and now they feel they will disappoint if they're not going to act through that. So sometimes they might be afraid to break those misconceptions. And that's going to make the interaction more difficult. They want to be seen as people, and they want to be seen as on your level, sort of, here, in the sense that we are all part of this greater stellar Lyrian family. And they want you to look into yourself and to look into your wisdom, not just always looking at them for that superior information or superior insight. They don't want that. They are tired. I'm talking from the perspective of the Taygetan Pleiadians. They are tired of that pedestal that many people have been putting them on. But it's a bit here a dichotomy, because I noticed that they don't want to be seen as gods. They don't want to be seen as superior. They want to empower us. That was their job, to see the information, see the empowering, wisdom, so we can be those that we are waiting for. But at the same time, like I'm saying, they are still carrying that idea, the ET people, or the memory even, of having been looked up to, perhaps also in the ancient past, and knowing what the Earth people expect of them in the ancient times. When they were here, they were seen as the superior beings. And then all the myths started to emerge, all these myths about them being gods and goddesses and all that. So, and I would say even, and I am not talking about the Taygetans here, or I don't know, maybe not all of them. I know that some ET people at the times, for example, of the ancient Egypt, where they were interacting with the people and fulfilling these, roles as pharaohs, some of them, etc. And they were landing with the ships, and the people of the earth were like perceiving them as gods. And some of the ET people enjoyed that. Okay, that I know, because they told us that unfortunately that gap grew because some of the ET people had egos. Yes, they are people, like I said, and they enjoyed having that attention, or they enjoy having that power. Like, this is enjoyable, I'm going to come here and give you. So anyway, and they kind of stepped into that role. And once you cement that, for the collective of Earth, and once you cement that for yourself up there, it's very difficult to break out of that. Like, how do you then break that gap and, get out of those expectations? So I would say, ET people, do not be afraid to show your flaws. God complex no more. And people understand that they are not gods and they are not perfect. Okay, let's continue. This is similar message. This is message to the people that is connected with the fact that people have these expectations of them being idyllic and perfect. People, do not expect them to provide and have all the answers. Okay? It doesn't make them any less real if they, for example, don't know something on a certain subject, or even if they make a mistake with a certain data. From our interactions, this was something quite stressful to them all the time. You don't understand. There were all these questions always posed at them, and we were passing questions from the people and ourselves. And it is very stressful and quite a responsibility to know what kind of expectation is on them, and to always feel like they have to provide this smart and very advanced and correct always and everything answer. And many times, and especially with Anneka, we were telling her, don't worry about this. Like, if you don't know something, just don't know. You don't know. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. If I ask a question, I don't know if you don't know, so I'm going to ask because you might know. If you don't know, you don't know. It's very difficult, I noticed, for them to say, I don't know. Many times they did, and especially as our friendship grew, but it was, and the trust, of course, but in general, they always felt like they had to provide, and they had to give this satisfactory answers. But that again comes from these ingrained in them ideas that there are these expectations of them. This God's complex, again, from the past, always coming and teaching people, and the population of Earth here has all the answers. We're going to teach them the technology. We're going to give them agriculture and astronomy. So that's the position they were in the past. And people of Earth understand they don't always have the answers. They are not omnipresent, knowing it all. I forgot the word for it. And they will always actually speak from their perspective. Also, that's something you have to understand. Something they had come to understand. They are always learning. They are always gathering more knowledge, information, and evolving. It's not like they are at the top. That's it. Nothing else to learn. Nothing else to know. They were always telling us there's always things to know more, and they are sometimes even changing their mind if there is new information or new insights. So don't think that if they don't have the answer, or if even maybe they give you a wrong answer, like, okay, you ask, what is it like in China there? And they would say, well, from our information, this is how it is. Because also remember, a lot of this information, especially about Earth, they were gathering from Earth. Well, where else? So don't think that if there is a mistake or they don't know, that this makes them false. And the message to the ET people to do with this: do not feel that you must have all the answers. Again, this is to do with this God's complex, okay? If we just lower our expectation here, then they will not feel as stressed, and they will be more open to approach us, not thinking that, they have to always deliver. So ET people, do not think that you need to provide all the answers. Show yourselves for who you are, okay? Because, like I said, it is stressful to always have to deliver. It's kind of like in my interviews, and it's in my live presentations where people are asking me questions. I always feel like, okay, people will be observing and assessing and judging this whole contact that we had, and will be judging the Taygetans, assessing the Taygetans based on what I say, based on what I am able to transmit. And that's responsibility, and that's stressful. So again, they might feel that their authenticity is being assessed or judged or evaluated based on the type of answer they will give. And that's stressful. Now, the next message, okay, this is kind of to everybody, and it's going to be short and sweet. Do not lie. That's all I will say. Telepathy is increasing. We'll be able to perceive if another person is truthful or not. The relationship that we must build if we want this disclosure based on ethical interactions and honesty and transparency. No, we have been here under so many lies, and ET people, do not lie. Do not lie. I know that sometimes they can be strategic. I'm here talking in general, okay? I don't think that I'm specifically referring to anything personal. I might be, but also in general, sometimes some ET races, some ET groups feel like they have to resort to strategies and techniques and tactics, and maybe sometimes it is necessary. Yes, I'm not judging. It's like you have to look at every single situation, but try to avoid that as much as possible. Okay. Again, this has to do with what I was talking about. People, do not expect them to come in here and fix all your problems, okay? Again, they are not our saviors. And this is something that we have talked about over and over and over again. And this is something also that they are kind of afraid of having to fulfill. like they will think we are saviors. And no, so first we need to understand they're not. And we need to take responsibility for many of our problems, participate in a solution and finding the solutions, applying the solutions to these problems, not just wait and have the ET people solve those problems. Now, message to the ET people: do not assume that everybody here expects that everybody here wants that, because that's how it was in the past. They were teaching us in the past, they were superior, and all that. So again, from that God's complex from the past, they are sometimes assuming that this is what the people want. This is what the people will expect of them. However, it's not always the case, okay? It's not always the case. I will give you a personal example. For instance, someone would say, okay, this is not about me. This is in general in our group, okay? Because there are also other people in our human people from Earth in our group, talking to them. And sometimes, for example, one of them would explain that they have a health issue. It's just sharing that. And then the Taygetans, or the person that was in the communication at that time, would feel that what is expected of them in that moment as a reaction is to somehow heal that person. So that would create a stress on them, like, okay, I feel like I'm here in a situation, it's a bit uncomfortable because what am I supposed to say? And then I would say to them, well, you just don't have to say anything. This is just something being shared. Okay. Remember, Aneka was sick, and some of them were sick. And many times they would come to us and share with us their sicknesses. We never felt like they're expecting us to heal them, right? They were just sharing. They were sharing all the time, all their symptoms and problems and issues and struggles. That's okay. But sometimes I noticed if there was a health issue shared by someone of our Earth team here, they might feel, or some of them, that it is being shared because what's being expected of them is to heal that person. And no, I remember I had the conversation, no one is expecting that. But then they would say, but Gosha, we feel that sometimes it is expected. I'm not sure how accurate they were, because they were saying they could telepathically feel like it was expected. I feel that they are reacting more from that ancient, ingrained, collective, unconscious God complex, where in the past they were healing. They were bringing these healing modalities and teaching medicine and teaching this and that and teaching all these different things. And that's the attitude they might carry. They are afraid, or they have this like a shadow that if someone shares a health issue, that could be because they're asking for help. And no one is asking. It's just being shared, just like Aneka when she was sick, So that's what I would say. People on Earth, do not expect them to fix your problems, okay? Do not wait for them to fix your issues, to fix your sick animals, to fix your teeth, to fix your failing heart or whatever. And then the ET people do not assume automatically that everybody expects that. Okay, now... Message to the ET people. This may be a little bit personal. I will go fast through this. They will understand what I mean. Do not create false expectations in humans if you cannot or do not want to deliver. Do not give them what you think they want to hear. I'm reading this because ultimately this breeds mistrust and resentments. The interaction must be based on transparent, realistic expectations on both sides. Understanding the limits, okay? Because this goes to the whole idea of them, ET people, ET people, the Taygetan group that I was talking to, feeling like they have to or they should deliver, again, to please, to fulfill the expectations. But sometimes they would give the people what they want to hear. They were not able to deliver something, but they would offer that. And in the end, that breeds resentment. That breeds the resentment on your side because you are growing resentful toward that person that you offered something because you feel like you are going against yourself, but you offer that. So I would say, be real, be realistic. Say no. This is typical for them. They just don't have that ability to say no. And we learned that very early in our interactions. And we were always trying to make sure that they are always there and being with us and doing and working and interacting because they want to, not to please us, because that would not please me if I found out at the end that they were not real, that they were not honest, that they were not pleased with me because they were doing just something for me. And also, this is my psychological insight on the situation. They have this idea that they are doing this because they are empathic toward the people's expectations and feelings and they don't want to hurt them. I have this psychological now insight. I may be wrong. This is just my feeling that this is not necessarily empathy or not necessarily empathy for every one of them. It's the desire to self-preserve their own self-image of being a good person, of being a good friend. So in the end, you are not doing this for the empathic reason for the person. You are doing this for yourself because perhaps there is some kind of lack of self-love there. And that's why you feel that you need to go out of yourself to provide and to give, not to hurt that person, but not because you really want that for that person. It's because you don't want to break how that person will perceive you, what that person will feel of you, and that will make you feel less loved and accepted and liked. And what they really want, and some of them more than others, I'm not talking about the whole Taygetan society, want to be loved and they want to be liked and they want to be accepted. And this reminds me of the situation when I was a little girl and I didn't have much self-esteem. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have self-esteem. I'm just saying I didn't have self-esteem. But in some ways, this is similar. And I really wanted, it was like when I was 10 or 11, and I wanted acceptance. I was not really very liked or popular. I was always somewhere there at the back of the room and no one was talking to me. There was this girl that was very popular. She was pretty and, kind of everybody wanted to impress her or be friends with her. So one time we were riding on the bus back from school with some of the kids and she was there and she asked generally, she said, "Hey, I would like to get off here and go to the market. Anybody wants to go with me?" And no one said anything. For some reason, they were all going home. So I volunteered. I said, "I'll go with you." Probably she didn't care about me there. But I said, "I'll go with you." I wanted to please her. But was it really about sympathizing with her situation so she doesn't feel alone? Or was it really because I wanted her to like me, or I wanted to be okay with my own image of myself, helping her and just like scoring with her, like so to speak. I wanted to improve my image of myself in her eyes. So, but it was all stemming from the fact that I had this low self-esteem and I just needed some acceptance, right? At that time when I was so little. Anyway, I am not saying this is exactly the situation. Of course, there must be an element of empathy there as well. They are just really, truly don't want to hurt our feelings and people's feelings. But I do believe there is this element here of not wanting to to disturb or annoy other people so that no one is upset with them because they don't want to disappoint, because they just want to sustain that self-image and be liked. Again, I am not talking about all of them. I'm just saying from few interactions here and there, sometimes I notice that tendency, which of course they even admitted themselves. Like Svarova Ferra wanted to be liked, and she had this issue of saying difficult things, and Yaski came and she was like, I'm going to be different. I'm going to be saying what I have on my mind, and I do not care. So there are all kinds of attitudes there. Anyway, let's continue to the next point. Now, this is the message to the ETs. Okay, I know that things on Earth and affairs on Earth are difficult sometimes, and they can be quite dark as well. And there are a lot of negativity going on. And many of them are very tough when it comes to dealing with this. Of course, you have to be dealing with Earth, and especially coming from such more holistic societies where there isn't much negativity. So to come here, you have to be strong, right? However, not all of them deal or can deal with negativity, with so much stress coming from Earth. From Earth, there is just so many different opinions here. Trolling, no trolling, enemies, matrix reacting, all kinds of groups fighting one another. I would say this: if you know you cannot deal with negativity, you cannot be involved. And I'm saying this out of love, because the negativity affects them in a different way that it affects us here on Earth. Even though it affects all of us here, we are not immune, but it kind of, in some individuals, it takes time because it's like everything takes more time here on Earth to manifest. For them, it manifests faster. They are not used to it. So if you cannot deal with negativity, do not be involved. Observe your reactions, observe your health. However, be responsible. Be responsible and no victimization. If you do decide to devote to this work with Earth, if you do decide to commit to this place, to helping this place, well, be self-responsible for that. No victimization, very important. It's not anybody's fault if something happens to one member of the team, when it turns out this is too much to handle. So be mature and in charge of your own decisions. Everybody here is playing a role and in charge of their own decisions. They up there and us down here as well. And it's very important not to blame others for your own engagement. In other words, if you are engaging with Earth and with the situations on Earth, and it's hard, well, it is your decision to do that. This work, being around Earth, on Earth, is not easy. Be sovereign in your own decisions. It's something that we always teach, in fact, humans, to be self-responsible for their own decisions, for their own actions, for their thoughts, for their engagement or lack of engagement, and no self-pitying and self-victimization. If something goes wrong, be aware of the risks. There are risks here. This is what we teach humans, to be self-responsible for their actions. So this also extends to the ET people, okay? Because sometimes they get involved, but then it's hard and it's very negative, it's stressful, and then they would have sometimes this moment of, okay, well, this is humans' fault. Yes, but the risks, and be self-responsible, because if you know something is affecting you in a way that you don't like, then it is on you to remove yourself from the situation, especially if your involvement is affecting the productivity of the rest of the team. I'm talking in general right now. So remove yourself and be how to say this in other words? I'm always looking for other words. Not just self-responsible, but in charge of your own path. Okay? Not sure if I found the right words here. This reminds me, I'm going to give you an example. In fact, I'm giving you much more here than what I gave in France. I had to squeeze this presentation here. I'm giving you more examples. I'm extending myself because I know I don't have time limit. And by the way, I'm very sorry. The message that I told you I'm going to publish, to read, I'm not going to read. It just occurred to me as I was taking a break, because my camera died. You may be not aware of it, but my camera died and I had to stop, and I had a half an hour break. I'm going to make a separate video with that message, because I think it deserves its own separate space. I'm going to put some music and images, and it's going to be elevated this way. It will reach you more than now. After 1 hour of this video, you're already tired, and I'll be reading from my notes. It's not going to be as impactful. So stay tuned for the next video. I'm going to read that message. But for now, yes, example of what I was just talking about, being self-responsible for one's actions. For example, me and Matthias is my boyfriend, partner. In last summer, we went to this town at the coast. It was my idea because I was there by myself before and I really liked it, and I wanted to be there with him. So I told him, there's this nice seaside town. Let's go there for a few days. It's going to be nice. He said, okay. He really said, okay. He didn't say no, or he just said, okay, well, let's go. Then we get there and it's not sunny. And he likes sun. Here in Finland, sun is something to be valued. And so he started to be really grumpy. And he said, this is the last time I'm going somewhere for you. I'm cutting the context and the situation, of course, but basically that's what it was. That okay, this is not sunny. I am not going to enjoy myself. I don't know why I came here. I only came here for you. What do you mean you came here for me? You see, this is exactly the situation I'm referring to. Be responsible for your actions. Do not do something just because it's for another person, and you're not even telling them that it's for another person. Like in his case, he didn't tell me he was going here just for me. I thought he really wanted to spend these few days there at the seaside. So don't do those things for another person. And if something goes wrong, then you're blaming that person, that it's their fault for you wasting your time. That's just not nice, because we are all agreeing and making decisions here and participating in something. It's a group thing. And if something goes wrong, do not blame another person. That just, for me, that's absurd. Or say, in the full transparency beforehand, okay, I don't want to go, but I'm going to go to the seaside town for you, to make you happy. To which, of course, I would have responded, no, then we are not going, because I don't want anybody to do anything just for me, to make me happy. It has to be both people or the whole group being happy. So anyway, these are just my notes and my impressions from 7-8 years of interaction. But I'm not just referring to the situations with us. I'm referring to the situations they had with other people, of which we were hearing when they were telling us about this and that situation, or coming to us to consult because they wouldn't know how to handle a certain situation. And Aneka, for example, used to come, Gosia, G, she used to call me G, I have this situation. How would you handle this? I need advice. So these are my impressions from the interactions in general with them. Okay. Message to the ET people. Message to the ET people. Understand that here, people on Earth, as we talked about a little earlier, we have been living under a lot of deceptions, right? And we have the right to question things. We have the right to question. In fact, this is something encouraged, and even by them, to always analyze and question and be an independent thinker. So why am I saying this? Why is it even a message to the ETs if they themselves say so, question reality? Well, because sometimes when they are questioned too much, like their existence, their pure existence, their authenticity, it can be a touchy subject for them a little bit, and they can get a bit defensive. But why? And this is a message for the people on Earth, because you need to understand, people on Earth, that they have lived under the denial of their existence for a very long time. And they are very, very tired of having to prove themselves all the time, especially not having really means beyond what they say how to prove themselves, because they are still operating, I'm talking about Taygetans, under all these different federation rules and restrictions. So they are very sensitive when they are being questioned too much sometimes, even though I know in my interaction that was with Varu Ofera 8 years ago, of course, I was questioning things too. I was asking this and that. Very patient. They will understand the questions, but they also grow very weary of these questions because everybody asks them the same thing. How do you know you are a Jew? How do I know you're not a fat guy in a I don't know why everybody says fat guy, not a skinny, in the basement somewhere, or this and that. Or, why this is, a lot of people also look for holes. And that's another thing, what I was saying earlier, that they get very stressed sometimes under pressure to always deliver these perfect answers, because they know they are being revised and they are being assessed by these people who are just waiting for them to make a little mistake or something that according to them doesn't add up, and they'll be questioned. And it's very tiring for them to be always questioned, like your authenticity, and you have to constantly prove yourself. So I would say to both sides, have patience with each other, okay? Let me repeat, the ET people understand that people have the right to question. People have the right to ask questions. But at the same time, people on Earth understand that they are tired of always having to prove themselves. So it's important to have this, in this situation, really empathetic understanding with each other and feel each other's intentions. Sometimes the person is authentically asking, curiously, a question about something, but they, out of this oversensitivity to always have to prove themselves, they will get defensive. Again, this very rarely happened with us. They were always super, super, super patient with my questions, very grateful. But sometimes, like if I would pass a question from someone, they would say, we are not going to repeat over and over again our existence or this and that. So anyway, have patience with each other. Have patience with each other. Okay, next point. People on Earth, I would say, do not categorize and separate the subject so much. They are very holistic in their approach. So let's try to integrate a lot of different points of view and a lot of different sides of reality. They don't really divide things like scientific, metaphysical, spiritual, technological, or this and that. It's not this or that. So they, all these cutting of subjects, and it's okay to be specialized in something, to be specializing in something, but understand that Many times they specialize in many things at the same time. Someone can be very artistic and dedicated to creating music, and then at the same time in the evening go and work on a spaceship engineering, and because it's connected. It's very connected, actually. That's another topic. So integrate, and also a message to the people on Earth: do not be too hostile, or do not be hostile, period. Hostile towards each other. The ET societies are all very different. And here we are like an expression of that in one planet. They up there sometimes don't get along, or they have different perspectives. They question, they argue among themselves. I'm not to the point like here, very hostile and aggressive. You have to, people on Earth, learn to be respectful towards others who have different opinions. And sometimes this is a challenge for me as well, because there are some opinions, I'm not going to say anything right now, but there are some opinions that it's difficult for me to integrate, more matrix opinions, but so many different views on Earth and so many different views up there. It's because the source itself is experiencing all these different perspectives through one another's eyes. It's all source experiencing all these different contrasts. So if you look at it that way, perhaps it will be easier. Okay, next point. I'm actually looking at my notes. These are my notes that I had in France. Okay, this is very important one as well, and I'll give you several examples for that. People on Earth do not expect so-called 3D answers to the matters of so-called 5D reality. There's going to be so-called dimensional variables here, and what you might interpret according to your, okay, let's call it 3D sight and perspective, may not correspond to what that thing or phenomenon or situation really is when looking at it with the lens of the more expanded reality. The 3D logic doesn't contemplate the 5D logic. So very often you would apply a 3D logic, or ask a 3D based question, logical question, to a phenomenon or a situation that contemplates many more variables than a 3D reality does not contemplate. Because we will always try to understand and explain everything away within our own frame. That's how everything works, according to our own frame. If we do not have a larger frame or a different frame, then we will not be able to apply the mechanics and operation of that frame to what we are seeing. So I'll give you a perfect example of this. For example, you will have the phenomenon of mirrors. These are the people who are there, up there. They are on ships or somewhere. But then they would have metaphysically, and we have videos on this topic, metaphysically you will have a same looking person, so-called mirror, here on Earth. And this is something that actually drives them mad. They do not fully understand this phenomenon. What is happening? What is going on? So this is where it gets complicated. And that's why the topic of photos is very sensitive and touchy and weird, because very often, for example, if they would share a photo of themselves, they don't know for sure if perhaps there is already a mirror of themselves here on Earth. So if they share that photo, someone will come and say, I know that person, look, that person here, on Instagram, and this and that. And they would show a photo of the same looking person, but it will not be the same person. How do you now logically explain this on Earth? You can't. You will say, well, this is that photo you sent me of that ET person is fake. That's fake. Because we hear that person already exists. Because we don't have that concept in our frame of two the same looking people existing at the same time, even though the closest one we have is doppelgangers, right? Even that, exactly. But this happens also between densities, the person up there and the person here. So very often we are applying our logic, how we understand things to be. The photo, for example, can only have one explanation. If the photo is there of a guy fishing, well, that's him fishing. That was him fishing at that time. But actually, the topic of photos, apart from the mirrors phenomenon, also gets complicated and metaphysical, because actually they told us the same photo can have many different root causes. It's not just a parallel to one situation. There is a photo, so this had to happen. What happened in the photo? Well, yes, but that same photo could correspond to many different situations, and it has to do with different timelines crossing, etc. This is where it gets very metaphysical and complex. So again, the 5D logic doesn't align with the 3D logic. So people on Earth do have to understand that. The same with linearity, for example. It's not that our present moment just influences the future. Yes, of course it does. But many times it can happen that actually your present moment is being influenced by something happening in the future. How? Don't ask me how now. I'm not going to be able to explain this now. But it was mentioned as well. The future influencing the past, how we are looping many times. And something you're experiencing now is the result of something that's happened so-called in the future, but it's because it's not really the future. It's in the same moment of now from the ether, right? So you have to understand that, okay? Because many times we will present our information and something would not be, even though this information is super logical, sometimes there are still things that would not apply to the 3D logic. And people would dismiss that then, oh, that's fake, or that doesn't make sense. Just because you don't understand it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to your frame of reality, okay? So we have to broaden our possibility here, broaden our minds and perspectives. Okay, we are getting closer to the end. I have 10 minutes on my memory card, so I think, I'm going to be able to do it. The last message to the ET people I have, and by the way, these are just some messages that I gathered up. Of course, there could be many more. Maybe I'll make part 2 sometime in the future. ET people, I believe that for the future, more positive and possible interactions with the human race, you need human allies, positive human allies who understand both sides, and who would be strong mentally to maintain the understanding of both sides, because you need to be able to grasp where each side is coming from and why they are thinking the way they think, and then try to bridge that. So it has to be someone who is from both worlds, understanding both worlds as much as they can, and strong mentally. Very, 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 very important, because this is not an easy job and not an easy function. It wasn't for us, Robert and I, over all the 8 years, to be standing in between and kind of translating one side to another, because many times I would ask questions in the name of humans, being in the position of the human, being able to present that perspective to the ET people, to the Taygetans, in the form of a question. And then I would interpret the answer to the people. First, there will be always a direct answer from them. We were never changing anything. Wait a second. Yes, but then sometimes, of course, I would make the videos that interpret or help to understand what they said. So it was always both sides, translating one side to another. So this is not an easy job. So what you need, the ET people, you need a transitional group for these transitional times. And that's what the star seeds are for. That's what the star seeds are for, because they come here, some with more memory, some with less memory. And I'm not just talking about the memory on the mental level, but the emotional memory. What happened here? Okay, something fell. My hairpin. Emotional memory, because many times you may not remember the details, this and that, but you will carry the presence with you. You will carry the values and, subconscious memory of how life can be. And that's what the star seeds are for. So the star seeds, I believe, are being prepared here, with many already being more than ready for the function, to form part of that transitional society, transitional group that can help bridge the gap, that can help to translate one side to another. So I think you do need that, the ET people, because by yourself, this is a very shocking experience to be dealing with the humans. I'm talking about more normal people, because everybody says this is a shock, a cultural shock will be to the world, but this is also a shocking experience to many ET people, okay? Especially if they have never really interacted closely with Earth. For example, Aneka, I remember she told us she never, as Aneka, in her present incarnation that she never stepped on Earth. She didn't want to. And many of them are like, they try to avoid that. Many of them do, and many of them stay here longer. The step downs, etc. Those must be a very strong elite group, but many of them prefer to stay away. So I think the star seeds here could be like agents, transitional society, as I say, a transitional group that can help the ET people with this opening towards the more open human race. I think it would be even beneficial health-wise to the ET people, because the star seeds, we understand the human race. We understand the human mentality, even though many times the ET people, Taygetans, it seems like they understand the humanity much more even than I do. Many times they will have insights about the human nature and the human affairs, in a much more insightful way than I do. But on the other hand, emotionally and like on the spirit side, inside, emotion, psychologically, they don't have that much experience. I am talking about some ET, of course. So I believe that in between group would be helpful. I am not saying that the ET people should be interacting only through that transitional group, hiding behind them. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that transitional group could just assist, help, be there as their support, kind of like what Robert and I have been for our Taygetan friends here in this interaction, try to be, and there are troops here on the ground, the boots on the ground. So it will be like a assisting team. That's just my ideas. I'm going to finish here right now with these points. I think it's a good idea that I transitioned the message from the special friend to the next video, because it will have a greater greatest spiritual impact. And this way we can make this video shorter because it's longer than I thought. It took me only about one hour in France, but here it turned out longer. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you ET people out there also got something out of it. These are just my humble perspectives based on our interaction with the Taygetans and Svarunians, mostly actually. Between 2017, the end, and the end of 2024. And for now, the interactions are on pause. That's a separate story there. But we continue. I invite you to my other channel, Space Academy, Sector Earth. You have to visit that channel because there I am presenting all these different points that we learned from the beginning in a friendly format for the newcomers, for the people who are maybe not so familiar with these topics, okay? So share with your family and friends that are newer to these topics. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support and your interest. And I'm going to see you in the next video for the message with the message from a special friend.